So good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world today. My name's Al Heron, and we are getting started with Vizlib Live session here today. So this is a masterclass. We've already delivered a more end-to-end product demonstration. But what we wanted to do is come back a couple of weeks later. We launched Vizlib's 6th product. I think that was on the 18th of Jan, so it feels a little bit longer to me. We've seen lots of people come in and use that tool, but also what we wanted to do is have a refresher now, kind of that 4 weeks out. And have a get started with Vizlib Live. Please remember, if you and we will send a link to the recording from the deeper dive. This is all about the best of both worlds. This is about your journey to cloud and how how you guys can innovate, but do that still within a Click app. I've got a couple of before I hand over to Michael. I've got a couple of introductions. The first one is Martin. Martin is a product manager, and he's joined to be product manager of Vizlib Live. So Martin, just fantastic to have you on. I know you're going to stay on and answer a couple of the questions. So that kind of leads into, I see quite a lot of people have joined today, so it's good to see you. Let's ask, this is about being interactive. We'll have the product demo for about 15 minutes, but please do ask questions. And then the other person I'd really like to introduce you guys to today is Jason. Jason, I mean, hand it across to you. Where'd you come from? What do you do?
Hello, it sounds a bit like blind date. Hi, I'm Jason. I'm the community manager for Vizlib. I've been working in this data sphere, as it were, for a number of years now, most recently Talend. So as some of you may know, Talend was bought by Click, so sort of keeping it in the family, as it were. So you will see me across a whole range of webinars and all great activities moving forward, and hopefully see some of you at a meetup in person soon. Thank you, Al.
Yeah, I think you're kicking the first one off in London. So if anyone is in London or can get to London next in a couple of weeks, let us know. At that point, we're going to hand you across to Michael, because I think we're going to go straight into, this is all about having that masterclass, that hands-on session. Michael, over to you, because I think you're going to give us a refresher on Vizlib Live, and then we're going to deep delve into how to get started.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to spend very little time on what we did before and spend more time on how to get you guys started. So getting started is probably the more common word. I know Al loves the masterclass word because that's a fun word now to use, and everyone in marketing uses it. But the same thing is getting started with Vizlib Live is what we're doing today. So with that, just a quick background. Obviously, you know us for the visualizations that we did with library. Some of you even helped, were even helped in moving from ClickView to ClickSense with that. Some of you have the custom report for self-service. Some of you have the finance report to make sure that you actually got those finance users into Click. We have the great Gantt chart to use for project planning within Click. Right back in collaboration to do these really cool things where you can chat within Click about the data, inside the data, and writing data to different types of data sources from Click, and closing the loop on getting data back in. Now, the 6th one that we just added, Vizlib Live, is meant to allow you to connect to live data in the cloud. And as Al mentioned, there's a whole webinar on this. There's 45 minutes of me and others talking through how this happens and how it works more from a general perspective. Now we're going to go into more of the details, and I'm going to give you a live demo of sort of how to create your first app using Vizlib Live. And this does work great in Click Cloud. So I'm actually going to prove that to you by starting in Click Cloud. And I'm going to do something so odd. I'm going to start from more or less a completely blank application. So this application now actually has a load script. So it actually has a little bit of data. The data in here is super small. We have a bit of country, a bit of region, and an ISO code that we're actually not going to use, but tiny amount of data in this app itself. So just to keep everything nice and clean and easy, and to show how that works. So if we just add a couple of fields here, we have country, region. Now these are connected. So just to show you what the data is. So if we have United States, now we have the different regions of the United States, Northeast, Northwest, etc., etc. Super simple. This is all we have in this app. But what we're going to do now, we're going to combine this very tiny data set with more data from somewhere else while still staying in Click. And the way that we're going to do that is that we're going to include data from our editor, so to speak. So we have the ability to create live data connections to Snowflake, Google BigQuery, Dremio, through what we call a Strato. And within a Strato, we have something that looks like this. So we have workbooks that we can work with. And in this case, we're going to work with the Sport Sales workbook. I'm actually going to put that on there so we can go back. This little workbook also has region and also has country. So we're actually going to see how we can connect this little application or this little dashboard into the ClickSense application. And going back to Click, if we now find the live object, obviously what you need to start with here is to download the Vizlib Live extension. So once you have the live extension, this is just like any extensions in Click. You download it through our portal. So you go to the Vizlib homepage, you log into the user portal, and there you can download the extension. There's lots of tutorials on that. I'm not going to show you how to install an extension, but super, super simple. Now, once we're here, we do need something that's called an embed link, because we need a link to this. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to copy and what we're going to do, we create an embed link, and the embed link is going to be created by right clicking and selecting object, group, or sheet. So we can bring this whole sheet in, or we can bring in a certain object only, or a group of objects. And we're going to do sheet. We're going to make this external, super simple one and very friendly. So we're just going to do that. Now, when you get to this part, it's very important that you actually copy the link and not the embed code. So this you could use on a web page if you wanted to, but in this case, we're just going to use the actual link. So we're going to use copy link and copy that. And then we're going to go back here and we're going to insert that. Once we've done that, we're actually going to get the data in. Now, this is the first part. Now we have that live dashboard inside the sheet. So if we just wanted to show data, live data, not connected to Click, inside Click, this is what we could do. Like super, super simple. If we wanted to make it a little bit more complete though, and the whole point of this exercise, to be honest, is that we wanted to connect country and region. So these two fields, we want to connect with the selections in here. The way that we do that, we add the dimension. So in this case, we want to connect country and we want to connect region. And then we also need to figure out exactly how those are connected. You'll see a warning triangle here if you haven't done this correctly. We're missing some settings. So what we need from actually Snowflake in this case is the schema, the view, and the field. And this can actually be a little bit tricky to find if you're not very familiar with how Snowflake works or how this looks in your data model. There is a simple trick to get to this. So if we go back in here and we select a region, apply that, and then just do another embed link. When I have a selection or a filtering made, it says, oh, include applied filter. Now, when we create that, we actually get a link that also includes this. We're not going to use this to connect to our live extension, but we can use the details. So the first one here, sales sample schema, that is the schema. The view, I don't know how close you look at that, but it's territory. And the third one was then, let's see, was this country? Yeah, it was country. It happens to be the same. So, and then we can actually do the same thing with region. So we go in, we add that, we have territory, and then we have region. Now, with that, we're back to the app, and then we're going to try and see if we manage to get this connection working. Now, if we go in, we select United States. Now, the data will update. So as you see, we now created a filtering connection between Click and the dashboard object that we created in the editor. So a few things to note, and sort of at least one thing here which is really important that you need to do, which otherwise this won't work, is that you need to go into the administration part of Astrato, and you need to make sure that you enable embed links. So you go to administration, you go to embed links, and here you go in and you enable external links. With the external links enabled, you need to look at an allow list. And in this case, we're using Click Cloud. So we need to include the star.clickcloud.com. This allows that web page basically to embed the design that we created in the editor. So this needs to be there. If you're using desktop, you need something like that. And if you're using sort of anything else, like in our case, we have demo servers. If you're using that, then add the server name. So depending on what you're using, these are typically the type of options that you would put in here. Just to make sure that everything is nice and secure, it needs to be added there. So this actually means that we're now up and running. So how did this magic happen then? Well, there's also more settings, obviously inside the application here in Astrato. So you could have sort of created more things. We could have picked up something else. We could have picked up a different type of app if we wanted to. These apps and these data sources are created within Astrato. There is a very nice video on how to get started with that here. So this video would show you how to get started with that. Or if you'd rather do that, and this is one of the things that Jason is responsible for that you just heard talking. He is responsible for what we call the Vizlib. So within Vizlib, you also have a training course for Astrato that you can go through in order to understand how to create that little workbook and that design that you need to do in the editor in order to then get it back into Click. The whole point here, of course, being that we can stay in Click Cloud, we can still keep everything here. And now, even though the data model that I created was super tiny, it could be a big data model, it could be a small one. All you need to do is make sure that you connect different fields from Click with similar type fields that don't have to be named the same, but they have to contain similar data. You put that inside Astrato, and then this will work. The difficulty that users have had so far has been that whole thing about just getting the schema, the view, and the field right. Once that's right, then this is really simple. So we only have 15 minutes today, so this is it for the how-to part. But I'm hoping that we do have some questions, and if you haven't posted your questions yet, please put your questions in the Q&A section so that we can start answering anything that has come in.
We've got a couple. They're very related at the moment, and it's the show me the money questions really there, Michael. I can answer that, but I mean, I'll ask it to you. Does this mean I need 2 licenses, one Vizlib, one number 2 Astrato? It feels a bit by product.
No, so it's only one license. You're paying for Vizlib Live, or actually you're paying one license for using Vizlib Live, whether that's the editor that you're paying for, the extension. But actually, downloading the extension is free, so you can do that part for free, and then you're paying for the Astrato bit. Right now, we have trials for both that you can use, so you can still get started with this, try it out at no cost at all. And then from there on, then yeah, there is a license cost. It's similar to our other products in the sense that it can be user-based, but what we can also do for Vizlib Live is that we can do usage-based licensing as well. So there's more options here than you're probably used to, but other than that, it's the same thing. You're not paying twice, I promise.
And I think, actually, there's a couple of questions coming in, but I want to just tailor on and add on to that, actually, Michael, because I know we had a lot of questions around that on the first, the launch webinar. So Jeffrey, I'm going to answer your question in just a very short, or your couple of questions just very short, or ask your questions in a short while. But I think the interesting thing is, if you look at the data clouds, they can be consumption based. So it could be that you are looking at your cloud data, but then you can pull that into Click. And then actually it's down to you guys to manage. So if you're looking at a consumption base, there's ways of that Vizlib Live gives you to manage where you consume and analyze data, and it gives you options on the cost. It's one of those things that we came up when we talked about best of both worlds. Jeffrey asks, do you have to use a Strato, any alternative? And then I'm going to do, because Jeffrey asked a couple of questions, can you embed multiple sources? Michael?
Yes, so you have to use a Strato for this one. It's what we use as an editor. I mean, if you could figure out a different way to use the extension, feel free. Right now, it's kind of coded to just do that. The extension itself is very, very simple. The extension only more or less embeds a web page, so it's like very straightforward. But yeah, you'd have to use the Strato editor for that. That's what it's designed for. The other question was just, let's see, what was the other question? Multiple data, yeah, multiple sources, yes. So, and that's actually one of the cool things that you could do with this. So on the same sheet here, you could actually pick up, I'm not sure that's a super relevant one, but you could pick up one source from Snowflake, one source from Google BigQuery, and then have everything connected through Click. So you can use Click as the hub for connecting all that cloud data that you might start getting now. So we see more and more customers adding data in the data cloud, and it's either disconnected or either in different data clouds. And then, yeah, you can actually use Click to connect those data sources together. It's a really cool part of this, that we're actually using that Click as a hub in a sense. Also, what you could do is you could have two different Snowflake data sources, which if you're used to Click, you usually connect that whole data model and you do everything in Click. So you're used to building everything into one, but in Snowflake, you might have two sort of separate databases, and it's very hard to get data out of those two databases at once just by doing queries. But by using Click in between, you can actually connect to both those data sources through Click.
Yeah, brilliant.
So both of those cases are possible. Very good question. Thank you for that.
It is a good question. And then Martin, I mean, you're here in the hot seat, so let's throw a couple at you. How does authentication how does authentication and
authentication, yes. So that's one of the things that Michael showed earlier, with how you actually can either have external embed links or restricted ones. And if you put that to restricted, you're going to use the authorization and authentication that is set up inside of a Strato. And there's multiple ways you can configure that inside of a Strato. You can use Okta or YDC. You can even use Snowflake pass-through to that embed link. But there's nothing like on the Click side where you authenticate that. But through a Strato, there's enterprise authentication of various sorts that you can use.
Yeah, I think that's quite interesting, because actually you're using the same authentication that you have within your data source. You're just not replicating, and that's absolutely key. So I know we talked before about sensitive data. It means that you've got even row level. And again, another anonymous, but Martin, I think you're like answering this one. It's a key thing about or key capability. Does this work with on-premise Click?
Yes, it does. It doesn't matter which version of Click you've deployed anywhere, it's going to work regardless. Simple, yes.
Yeah. And Sue asks, Michael, I'll throw this one back to you. When using Vizlib Live, does the program load data before the user opens the dashboard or after?
After. So that's part of the point of this, is that we're loading live data. So we really want to load the data when we're sort of on the dashboard and not before. So it loads it, and it only loads as much data as it needs. So an important part here is that this is also a way to sort of adjust how much data you ask from Snowflake, because we know the consumption-based price models of data of cloud data like Snowflake, and we know that it can come at a cost. So you can also cost optimize by keeping a lot of the sort of transactions and calculations in Click where that makes sense, but maybe ask Snowflake for some of the either really big data or just really close to real-time data that you need. So you're only asking Snowflake for as much as you need and not everything all the time.
Yeah. Brilliant. We're coming to the end of the questions here, so I'm going to give someone a last minute to get a last question in, and they can choose Michael or Martin. But Martin, as we're meeting you for the first time, I'm going to ask a question. Here we go. Tell us, I mean, where are you from? Where are you based? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, small introduction from my side. Yeah, Martin. I'm based in Stockholm. I've been working here at Vizlib with both of Strata and Vizlib extensions for around 2.5 years. Come from a Click background, more technical background, and worked with the product team here at Vizlib for almost 2 years now. Yeah, time flies. But yeah, I'm just super excited to take responsibility and really see what everyone comes up with and work with Vizlib Live. I'm sure there's lots of things that we haven't thought about ourselves that our community is kind of put together.
Brilliant. There was a question that came in again from Jeffrey. Jeffrey, I like people that ask lots of questions, so that's great. And the answer is yes. And to those that can't see the question, do we work with BigQuery? So we do. Again, multiple data sources and adding a lot more to the roadmap, being a product company. That's it from us. I've seen one very last question come in. I am in London. What is the date of the meetup? I'm going to put, so 2nd of March. And yes, if you're around, please have a little look at, actually, Jason's just put a link in there.
Well-timed question, well-timed link in the chat as well. So yeah, if you're in or around London on that date, after work, drop on by and say hello.
And I think the other thing is, if you guys are not happy that we are not doing something in your city, but you run a meetup group, Jason would be very interested in speaking to you, and we're very interested in coming along. And we can send Michael, we can send we can send Martin, we can send Jason, we can even send our CEO if we get enough of the right requests. So whoever you want, we'll come and support you in a meetup group wherever you're running one. So let us know if you want us to come and talk, and we'll bring some beer and pizza. At that point, sounds like a nice time to wish everybody, I'm not going to say a Valentine's, great happy Valentine's, but a great rest of the day. And thanks for joining.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks all.